The drilling machine bit deeper into the rocky ground of Kepler 442. B. Zaxklar wiped sweat from his blue-scaled forehead as he watched the readouts. His mining crew had been digging for 3 months now, looking for the rare crystals that powered their ships. The work was hard and boring, but it paid well. "Sir, we hit something," called out Mortet from across the dig site. The young Zephyrian's voice carried worry. The drills stopped. "There's metal down there." Zaxklar walked over to look at the scanner. The display showed a massive object buried deep underground. It was huge, bigger than their entire mining station. The metal was unlike anything in their database. "How deep?" he asked. 3 kilometers down. "Whatever it is, it's been there a very long time." Zaxklar thought about it. Finding old ruins was not uncommon on dead worlds. Sometimes they contained valuable technology. Sometimes they contained things better left alone. But his orders were clear. Anything unusual had to be reported to the Galactic Council. "Send a message to command. Tell them we found something big." The reply came back within hours. A council science ship would arrive in 2 days. Until then, they were to continue digging carefully around the object. The next day, they broke through into an empty space. The metal object was revealed to be part of a much larger structure. It looked like a building, or maybe a ship. The metal was dark gray and covered in strange symbols. When the science ship arrived, Dr. Vexmore took charge of the dig. She was a tall, thin Nexari with crystal skin that glowed softly in the dark. Her 6 arms moved quickly as she set up scanning equipment. "This is very old," she said after studying the readings. "At least 3,000 years, maybe older." "Any idea what species built it?" asked Zex-Clar. Dr. Vexmore was quiet for a long moment. "The symbols look familiar, but I cannot place them. We need to get inside." They found an opening that looked like a doorway. It was sealed, but their cutting tools made quick work of it. Inside, the structure was dark and cold. Emergency lights came on as they entered, showing long hallways lined with more strange symbols. "The power still works," whispered Mordet. After all this time, they moved deeper into the structure. Room after room was filled with equipment they did not recognize. Everything was built for creatures about the same size as themselves. But the design was different from anything they knew. In the center of the structure, they found a large room with a single device sitting on a raised platform. It was a black cube, covered in blinking lights. Dr. Vexmore approached it carefully. "Be careful," warned Zaxklar. "We don't know what it does." But as Dr. Vexmore stepped closer, the cube suddenly came to life. Lights flashed faster, and a low humming filled the air. Before anyone could react, a beam of light shot up from the cube and disappeared through the ceiling. "What did you do?" shouted Zaxklar. "Nothing. I just got close to it." The humming grew louder. Then, without warning, the cube began sending out a signal. It was not like any signal they had heard before. It was complex and powerful, broadcasting in all directions across space. "Shut it down," ordered Dr. Vexmore. But nothing they tried worked. The cube kept sending its signal. After an hour, it finally stopped on its own. The lights went dark and the humming faded away. Far away, in the empty space between galaxies, something heard the signal. Captain Jake Morrison was in his quarters, aboard the Aurora's Edge when the alert came. He had been reading old Earth books, something he did to remember home. The ship's computer rarely bothered him unless it was important. "Captain, we're picking up an old signal," said the computers. Voice. Jake sat up. "What kind of signal?" "Emergency beacon. Human origin. From the galaxy." Jake's heart started beating faster. It had been 3,000 years since any human had been in the galaxy. The signal could only mean one thing. Someone had found something they left behind. He rushed to the bridge. Dr. Lisa Carter was already there, studying the readings. She looked excited and worried at the same time. "It's definitely one of ours," she said. "The code matches the old emergency protocols. Where did it come from?" "Kepler 442b. It was one of our mining colonies before we had to leave." Jake nodded. Everyone knew the story. 3,000 years ago, humans had been forced to flee the galaxy. The other species had united against them, claiming humans were too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Those who escaped had spent centuries traveling to the empty space beyond the galaxy's edge. "How many people know about this signal?" Jake asked. "Just us, for now. But if we picked it up, others might have to." Jake thought quickly. The human fleet had been waiting for this moment for a long time, waiting for a chance to return home. But they had to be careful. The galaxy was still controlled by the species that had driven them out. "Send a message to Admiral Sullivan. Tell her we need to talk, and prepare the ship for a long journey." "Are we really going back?" asked Dr. Carter. Jake looked at the star charts, showing their home galaxy. It looked so small from this distance, but he knew it contained billions of worlds and trillions of beings. Most of them still believed humans were extinct. "Yes," he said, "it's time." Within days, the Aurora's edge was moving toward the galaxy at maximum speed. Behind them, hidden in the dark between the stars, the human fleet began to wake. Up ships that had been sleeping for decades came back to life. Crews that had never seen their true home prepared for a journey that would change everything. Jake stood on his bridge and watched the galaxy grow larger ahead of them. Somewhere in that swirl of stars was the world where humans had first learned to fly. Somewhere in there were the graves of billions of their people. And somewhere in there were the beings responsible for nearly destroying the human race. The signal from Kepler 442b had been an accident. The aliens who found the old human base had no idea what they had done. They thought they had discovered ancient ruins from some forgotten species. They had no idea they had just called the humans home. Jake smiled grimly as he watched the stars. The galaxy had spent 3,000 years thinking humans were gone forever. Soon, they would learn how wrong they were. The Aurora's edge flew on through the darkness, carrying the first humans back to their old home. Behind them, an entire fleet followed. The exile was ending. The return had begun. The Aurora's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the view screen, seeing his first glimpse of the galaxy in 3,000 years. It looked different somehow. There were more ships, more stations, more signs of life than he remembered from the old records. "Scanning the system now," reported Dr. Lisa Carter from her station. "I'm picking up a lot of activity around Kepler 442b. Looks like a full archaeological dig in progress." Jake nodded. "Any sign they know we're here?" "Not yet. We're too far out and running silent." The Aurora's edge was built for stealth. Its hull was designed to bend light around it, making it nearly invisible. The human fleet had learned to hide well during their long exile. "What about other human sites in this system?" Jake asked. Dr. Carter worked at her console for several minutes. "There were 3 human colonies here originally. I'm detecting artificial structures on all 3 worlds, but they've been heavily excavated. It looks like the aliens have been studying our old sites for a long time." Jake felt a cold anger growing in his chest. The species that had driven humans from the galaxy were now picking through human ruins like scavengers. They were treating human history like curiosities in a museum. "Captain," called Commander Alex Turner from the tactical station. "I'm picking up a transmission from the main alien ship. They're reporting the discovery to something called the Galactic Council. Can you decode it?" "Working on it now." Alex paused as data flowed across his screen. "Got it. They're excited about finding what they call precursor artifacts. They think they've discovered ruins from an unknown ancient species. Dr. Carter looked up from her station. Unknown. Jake, they don't know these are human sites. The records have been lost or destroyed. Jake thought about this. 3,000 years was a long time. Maybe the current generation of aliens had forgotten about humans entirely. Maybe they thought humans were just another extinct species from the distant past. Set course for the outer system. I want to see what else they've found. The Aurora's edge moved silently through the system, its sensors recording everything. Jake was amazed by what he saw. The aliens had built mining stations around every planet and moon. They had found and excavated dozens of human sites. Everywhere he looked, he saw evidence of systematic looting. Jake, you need to see this, said Dr. Carter. Her voice was tight with emotion. On the main screen appeared an image of Kepler-4, 4 to see, the third planet in the system. It had once been home to 20 million humans. Now Jake could see a massive excavation site where the capital city had been. Alien machines were digging through the ruins, sorting through the remains of human civilization. They're taking everything, whispered Dr. Carter. Art, technology, even human remains. Jake's hands clenched into fists. He forced himself to stay calm. Getting angry would not help anyone now. Are there any humans left alive down there? Negative. All life signs are alien. Whatever happened here, it was complete. Commander Turner spoke up from his station. Captain, I'm picking up something else. There's a monument of some kind on the fourth planet. The image on the screen changed to show Kepler-4, for 2D. In the center of what had once been the main human settlement was a tall black stone pillar. Alien symbols covered its surface. Can you translate it? Jake asked. Dr. Carter worked for several minutes. It's an old galactic standard. It says it's a memorial to the victims of the Great Plague. It claims that 20 million humans died here when a disease swept through their colonies. Jake stared at the monument. A plague. Lisa, check the historical records. Was there ever a plague on these worlds? Dr. Carter's fingers flew over her console. After a few minutes, she looked up with a grim expression. No plague, Jake. According to our records, these colonies were attacked by alien warships. The populations were killed or captured. There was no disease involved. The bridge fell silent. Jake felt the weight of truth settling on his shoulders. The aliens had not just driven humans from the galaxy. They had rewritten history to cover up what they had done. They're lying, said Commander Turner. They killed our people, and then made up a story about a plague to hide it. Jake nodded slowly. Contact Admiral Sullivan. Tell her we need the full fleet here, and send word to Dr. Ben Rogers. We're going to need our best people to document what really happened. Over the next few days, more human ships arrived in the system. They stayed hidden while teams of scientists and historians studied the alien excavations. What they found made Jake's blood run cold. Dr. Ben Rogers led the investigation team. He was a geneticist who specialized in analyzing old DNA samples. His report was devastating. The evidence is clear, he told Jake during a private meeting. The human populations on these worlds were not killed by disease. They were murdered. We found mass graves, burn sites, even evidence of medical experiments. They were testing weapons on human captives, seeing how much damage different alien technologies could cause. They were also trying to understand human genetics, probably to make their attacks more effective. Jake closed his eyes and took a deep breath. How many sites have you examined? 12 so far. All the same pattern. Complete extermination, followed by excavation and looting. They even took the bodies for study. Lieutenant Sam Hayes knocked on the door and entered. She was one of the youngest officers on the ship, barely 25 years old. Her family had been among the first to escape when the persecution began. Captain, we've decoded more of the alien transmissions. They're planning to ship the human artifacts to the Galactic Council's main museum. They want to put them on display as examples of primitive species development. Jake felt his anger finally break free. Primitive. They're calling us primitive. Dr. Rogers looked grim. Jake, there's something else. We found records in one of the excavated sites. Messages from the original colonists during the attacks. They were calling for help, begging for rescue. Some of the messages are from children. Sam. Hayes spoke up quietly. My grandmother always told stories about the old days. She said the aliens didn't just want us gone. They wanted us forgotten. They wanted to erase every trace that we ever existed. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of alien ships moving through the system like scavengers, picking clean the bones of his people. Not anymore, he said. Send a message to the fleet. Tell Admiral Sullivan we have enough evidence. It's time to come home. Within hours, the message had been sent across the void to where the human fleet waited. The response came back quickly. Admiral Kate Sullivan herself would arrive within the week, bringing with her the first wave of the human return. Jake looked out at the alien ships one more time. They had no idea what was coming. For 3,000 years, they had believed humans were extinct. They had built their civilization on the graves of human worlds, told lies about human history, and stolen everything humans had left behind. Soon, they would learn that humans had not forgotten, they had not forgiven, and they had definitely not disappeared. The Aurora's Edge continued its silent watch as more human ships gathered in the outer darkness. Each new arrival brought with it survivors who had never seen their ancestral home. Each carried the genetic memory of injustice and the burning desire for truth. Jake watched the alien excavation sites and thought about the children whose final messages Dr. Rogers had found. They had died believing help would come. They had died believing they would not be forgotten. They were right on both counts. Help was coming, 3,000 years late, but still coming, and they would never be forgotten again. The galaxy was about to learn that some ghosts never rest until justice is served. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, the New Earth, as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Around her, 200 human warships materialized from the darkness between stars. For the first time in 3,000 years, a human fleet had returned to the galaxy. Admiral, we're being scanned, reported the communications officer. Multiple alien ships are moving to intercept us. Kate nodded calmly. She had expected this. The alien excavation fleet around Kepler 442b had finally noticed the new arrivals. They were probably confused and scared. Good. They should be. Open a channel to all alien vessels in this system, she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead alien ship. A tall Zephyrian in a blue uniform stared back at her with wide, frightened eyes. Unknown vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Council space. Identify yourselves immediately, or we will be forced. 2. I am Admiral Kate Sullivan, of the Human Expeditionary Fleet, she interrupted. You are the ones who are in violation. This system contains human worlds and human graves. You will cease all excavation activities immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. The alien captain's mouth fell open. Behind him, other crew members were pointing at their screens and talking excitedly in their own language. Human? That's impossible. Humans are extinct. They died out thousands of years ago from disease. Kate smiled coldly. As you can see, reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated. You have been desecrating human burial sites and stealing human artifacts. These actions end now. I need to contact the Galactic Council. This is beyond my authority. You? Do that, said Kate. But understand this, no more human artifacts leave this system. No more excavation of human sites. Any attempt to continue your grave robbing will be met with force. She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. Deploy the fleet in defensive positions around all human worlds. Nothing gets in or out without our permission. The human ships spread out through the system like a net. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen. The excavation fleet found itself completely surrounded. General Ryan Brooks contacted Kate from his assault ship. Admiral, my troops are ready to go. Give the word, and we'll secure all the excavation sites. Not yet, Ryan. Let's see if they're smart enough to cooperate first. The answer came 3 hours later. A massive alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the edge of the system. Kate counted over 500 ships, including several that were twice the size of her largest vessels. This is Fleet Commander Zechstein of the Galactic Council Defense Force, came the transmission. You will identify yourselves and explain your presence in Council space. Kate opened the channel again. This time she was speaking to a room full of alien commanders. She recognized several species from the old records: Zephyrians, Nexari, Vorthok, and others. All of them were staring at her like they were seeing a ghost. I am Admiral Kate Sullivan, commanding the human fleet. We have returned to reclaim what is ours and to seek justice for the crimes committed against our people. A tall Vorthok, with green scales and yellow eyes, stepped forward. Impossible. Humans died out millennia ago. The records clearly show they were wiped out by plague. Your records lie, Kate replied firmly. There was no plague. Your ancestors murdered 20 billion humans in a systematic campaign of genocide. We have the evidence. The aliens looked at each other nervously. Kate could see fear and confusion in their faces. They had clearly believed their own propaganda about human extinction. Even if some humans somehow survived, said the Vorthok. Commander, you cannot simply return after so long and make demands. The galaxy has moved on. These worlds now belong to the Council. Kate's expression hardened. No. These worlds contain the bones of our children. They are sacred to us. You will withdraw your excavation teams and return everything you have stolen, or we will take them back by force. You're outnumbered more than 2 to 1, pointed out the alien commander. Numbers don't matter, Kate replied. We've had 3,000 years to prepare for this moment. Don't make us show you what we've learned. The transmission ended, and Kate waited. She knew the aliens would try to fight. They had spent too long believing humans were weak and primitive to back down easily. The attack came 6 hours later. The alien fleet moved in standard formation, probably expecting humans to fight the same way they had 3,000 years ago. They were in for a surprise. All ships, engage, ordered Kate. The battle began unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships seemed to dance through space, moving in ways that should have been impossible. Their weapons cut through alien shields like paper, while their own defenses bent and shifted to absorb incoming fire. Commander Beth Martinez was leading the stealth squadron on her ship, Silent Justice. While the main fleet kept the aliens busy, she and her ship slipped past their lines completely undetected. Target locked, she reported, beginning attack run on their command ship. The aliens never saw it coming. One moment their flagship was directing the battle, the next it was crippled by weapons fire from ships that appeared out of nowhere. Panic spread through the alien fleet as more ships seemed to materialize from empty space on the new Earth. Kate watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Dr. Nick Foster, open a channel to the surviving alien ships. Dr. Foster was the fleet's diplomatic officer, a former teacher who had volunteered to handle negotiations with hostile aliens. His job was to offer mercy to those willing to accept it. This is Dr. Nick Foster, speaking for the human fleet. To all alien vessels, you have fought bravely, but you cannot win. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting, and we will destroy you. Some of the alien ships took the offer. Their crews were transported to human prison ships, where they were treated well, but kept under guard. Others tried to keep fighting and were systematically destroyed. The battle lasted only 4 hours. When it was over, the alien fleet had been completely defeated. More than half their ships were destroyed or crippled, and the rest had surrendered. Kate stood on her bridge and looked at the wreckage floating in space. She felt no joy in the victory, only sadness for all the death that could have been avoided. If the aliens had simply told the truth about the past. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council's capital world. They want to negotiate." "Tell them we'll consider it," Kate replied. "But first we have work to do here." General Brooks and his troops landed on all 3 human worlds in the system. They secured the excavation sites and began cataloging everything the aliens had taken. The amount of stolen artifacts was staggering. Millions of pieces of human art, technology, and personal belongings. But it was the mass graves that hit hardest. Site after site revealed evidence of systematic murder. Men, women, and children had been killed and buried in unmarked holes in the ground. Many showed signs of experimentation and torture. Lieutenant Sam Hayes was part of the team, investigating the main burial site on Kepler 4 for to see. She found herself standing over a grave containing hundreds of children, all around 10 years old. "Captain Morrison," she called on her radio, "you need to see this." Jake arrived within minutes. He looked down at the small bones and felt his heart break. These children had been murdered 3,000 years ago, but to him they looked like they could have been sleeping. "There's something else," said Sam quietly. "We found personal items with the bodies. This child was wearing a pendant with human writing on it." She handed Jake a small metal disc. The writing was faded, but still readable. Sarah Chen, age 9. New Boston Elementary School. Jake stared at the pendant. This little girl had been wearing it when she died. She had probably been given it by her parents, maybe for her birthday or as a good luck charm. Now it was all that remained of her life. "How many sites like this have we found?" he asked. 17 so far, Sam replied. "Each one contains hundreds or thousands of bodies." "Jake, they killed everyone. Every human in this system was murdered." Jake looked up at the sky where Admiral Sullivan's fleet was maintaining its blockade. The aliens who had done this were still out there, probably preparing more lies to cover up their crimes. "Not anymore," he said softly. "From now on, everyone will know the truth." The liberation of the Kepler system was just the beginning. Word of humanity's return spread quickly through the galaxy, causing panic and confusion. Species that had participated in the genocide began destroying evidence and preparing their defenses. But it was too late. The humans had returned, and they remembered everything. 3,000 years of exile had not weakened them. It had made them stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. The galaxy was about to learn that some sins can never be forgiven, and some debts can never be erased. Justice was coming, and it wore a human face. President Maya Johnson sat in her office aboard the massive colony ship New Hope, reading reports from across the galaxy. Each one brought more evidence of the systematic destruction of humanity 3,000 years ago. Each one made her angrier and sadder at the same time. The human fleet had grown to over 1,000 ships as more vessels arrived from the void between. They now controlled 12 star systems that had once been human colonies. In every system, they found the same thing: mass graves, destroyed cities, and aliens who claimed it had all been caused by disease. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Ambassador Rose Clark entered, carrying a data pad and looking tired. Rose had been a teacher before the Exodus began, but she had become one of their best diplomats during the long years in exile. "Maya, we've received another communication from the Galactic Council. They want to meet to discuss a peaceful solution." Maya looked up from her reports. What kind of peaceful solution? They're offering to recognize human sovereignty over 50 uninhabited worlds in the Outer Rim. They say it's generous compensation for any historical grievances. Maya felt anger rise in her chest. 50 empty worlds. As compensation for 20 billion murdered humans. That's what I told them, Rose replied. They seem to think we should be grateful for any offer at all. Maya stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see the lights of other human ships. Each one carried families who had never seen their true home, children who had grown up on stories of Earth and Luna and Mars. Any word from Colonel Pierce's mission? Rose's expression grew grim. You need to see his latest report yourself. Colonel Dan Pierce commanded the human special forces. His job was to investigate the most sensitive sites, places where the evidence of genocide might be hidden or destroyed. His teams operated in secret, gathering proof of what had really happened. Maya took the datapad and read Pierce's report. Her hands began to shake as she understood what he had found. They're still doing it, she whispered. Yes, Rose confirmed. Active sites, hidden facilities where they've been studying captured humans for generations. Maya read the details with growing horror. On 7 different worlds, Pierce's teams had found secret research stations. Humans were being kept in cages like laboratory animals. Some were being used for medical experiments. Others were being forced to breed so their children could be studied. The worst part was that many of these humans were descendants of people captured during the original genocide. They had been prisoners for 3,000 years, passed down through generations like property. How many? Maya asked quietly. Over 100,000 humans in captivity. Men, women, children. Some have never seen sunlight. Maya felt sick. She had thought that genocide was ancient history, a terrible crime that had happened long ago. Now she learned it was still happening. Human beings were still suffering because of decisions made millennia earlier. Have we been able to rescue any of them? Pierce's teams have freed 3 facilities so far. The rescued humans are in medical care now, but many are in bad shape. They've been traumatized by generations of captivity. Maya thought about her own daughter, safe aboard one of the human ships. She tried to imagine what it would be like to grow up in a cage, never knowing freedom. The thought made her want to order the immediate destruction of every alien world in the galaxy. What do our people want? She asked. Rose sat down heavily. You know what they want, Maya. Complete surrender. Trials for war crimes. Some are calling for extinction of the species responsible. Maya nodded. She had been hearing the same demands from human crews across the fleet. 3,000 years of exile had not cooled their desire for justice. If anything, finding evidence of ongoing atrocities had made them more determined than ever. And the aliens, divided. Some species are starting to cooperate with us. They claim they were forced to participate in the genocide by the dominant powers. Others are digging in for a fight. Maya looked at Pierce's report again. Pictures of human children in laboratory cages stared back at her. These were not ancient crimes. These were happening right now, today, while politicians talked about compensation and treaties. Send a message to Admiral Sullivan, she said. Tell her to begin Phase 2 operations. We're done negotiating. Rose looked concerned. Maya, are you sure? Once we start liberating the research facilities directly, there's no going back to peaceful talks. Look at these pictures, Rose. Look at what they're still doing to our people. How can we negotiate with beings who keep human children in cages? Rose nodded slowly. I'll send the message. Over the next week, human strike forces hit alien research facilities across the galaxy. Each raid was carried out with precision and overwhelming force. The aliens defending these sites were given one chance to surrender. Most chose to fight and were destroyed. The rescued humans were transported to medical ships where doctors worked around the clock to treat both physical and mental trauma. Many had been experimented on so severely that they would need years of treatment to recover. Dr. Emma Stone was leading the medical effort aboard the hospital ship Mercy. She had been a research scientist before becoming a doctor, and what she found in the alien labs made her want to burn down every alien world she could find. They weren't just studying us, she reported to President Johnson. They were trying to engineer new diseases, specifically designed to kill humans. Some of the captives were infected with experimental viruses to test their effectiveness. Maya closed her eyes and tried to stay calm. How many facilities are there? Based on the rescued humans' testimonies, we estimate at least 50 active sites, possibly more. And the Galactic Council. They're claiming they knew nothing about it. They say these were illegal operations run by rogue scientists. Maya almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Rogue scientists, operating across dozens of worlds for thousands of years, with full military protection. That's their story. The human raids had another effect beyond rescuing captives. They revealed the full scope of alien cooperation in the genocide. Species that had claimed to be innocent bystanders were found to have research facilities of their own. Others had provided funding or materials for the experiments. Captain Luke Davis was leading one of the strike teams when they hit a facility on Vorthok Prime, the homeworld of one of the Galactic Council's founding species. What they found there changed everything. Mr. President, he reported, you need to see this. The transmission showed a massive underground complex beneath the Vorthok capital city. Room after room was filled with human artifacts, but these weren't stolen archaeological treasures. These were trophies. They have a museum, Luke explained, a secret museum dedicated to the human genocide. They have weapons used in the attacks, recordings of human cities being destroyed, even preserved body parts of human leaders. Maya stared at the screen in shock. The Vorthok had turned mass murder into entertainment. They had created a monument to celebrate the near extinction of humanity. There's more, Luke continued. We found planning documents for something called the Final Solution Protocol. It's a detailed plan for hunting down and eliminating every human in the galaxy. When was it written? 3 weeks ago. They were preparing to finish what they started as soon as they confirmed humans still existed. Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. The aliens hadn't just committed genocide in the past. They were actively planning to do it again. The only thing that had stopped them was humanity's superior technology and military strength. Destroy it, she ordered. All of it. Burn that place to the ground. What about civilian casualties? Maya thought about the human children in laboratory cages. She thought about the secret museum celebrating mass murder. She thought about plans to exterminate every human being in existence. Evacuate the civilians first, she said finally. But that facility gets turned into ash. The destruction of the Vorthok Genocide Museum sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other alien species began to panic, wondering what evidence of their own crimes might be discovered next. Some tried to destroy their records. Others attempted to flee to distant regions of space. But the humans were everywhere now. Their ships seemed to appear out of nowhere, striking targets across hundreds of worlds simultaneously. Advanced stealth technology made them nearly impossible to detect until they opened fire. Ambassador Rose Clark found herself negotiating with increasingly desperate alien representatives. Species that had been demanding human surrender were now begging for mercy. They want to know what it will take for humans to stop the attacks, she reported to Maya. Tell them, Maya replied. Complete surrender. Trials for everyone involved in the genocide or the research programs. Reparations for the families of the dead. And most importantly, the immediate release of every human still in captivity. They're saying it's impossible. Too many of their leaders were involved. Maya looked out at the stars. where human ships were hunting down war criminals and freeing enslaved humans. After 3,000 years, justice was finally within reach. Then they'll learn what impossible really means, she said quietly. The galaxy was about to discover that some crimes were so terrible, they could never be forgiven. The aliens had thought they could erase humanity from history. Instead, they had created an enemy more determined and capable than anything they could imagine. The time for mercy was over. The time for justice had begun. Fleet Admiral Chris Walker stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Retribution as it approached the Sol system. Behind him, the largest human fleet ever assembled followed in perfect formation. 3,000 ships, carrying 2 million humans, were coming home to Earth. The aliens had made their final stand at humanity's birthplace. The remaining Galactic Council forces had fortified the system, believing that controlling Earth would give them a symbolic victory that might rally their scattered fleets. They were wrong. Admiral, we're detecting over 800 alien ships in defensive positions around Earth, reported his tactical officer. They're using the planet as a shield. Chris nodded grimly. The aliens thought humans wouldn't risk damaging their homeworld. They didn't understand that Earth had been turned into a memorial by the few alien species who had opposed the genocide. For 3,000 years, it had been maintained as a monument to human civilization. Dr. Stone, are you ready? He asked. Dr. Emma Stone stood at the science station, her hands moving over controls that would activate humanity's ultimate weapon. Not a weapon of destruction, but one of isolation. The quantum isolation field is ready, she confirmed. Once activated, nothing will be able to leave this system. No ships, no signals, nothing. It was the perfect punishment for species that had driven humans into exile. They would experience the same isolation, trapped forever in a single star system. Captain Davis, deploy your teams. I want those alien research facilities secured before we begin the final phase. Captain Luke Davis acknowledged the order and led his assault forces toward the hidden facilities in the asteroid belt. Intelligence reports indicated that the aliens had moved their most valuable human prisoners to secret bases near Earth, probably hoping to use them as bargaining chips. The battle for the Sol system began at dawn on what would have been a Tuesday if anyone still counted Earth days. Human ships phased through the alien defensive lines like ghosts. Their advanced technology, making their enemies' weapons nearly useless. But this wasn't just about military victory. President Maya Johnson had decided that the galaxy needed to see the truth about what had happened to humanity. Every battle was being broadcast across all communication frequencies, ensuring that every alien world would witness the final reckoning. This is President Johnson speaking to all beings in the galaxy, she announced as the battle raged. For 3,000 years, you have lived with lies about humanity's fate. You were told we died from disease. You were told we were primitive and dangerous. Today, you will learn the truth. The transmission showed images from the human raids across the galaxy. Mass graves, torture chambers, research facilities where humans had been kept as lab animals. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Captain Davis's forces reached the first research facility as Maya's broadcast continued. Inside, they found 200 human prisoners, including children who had never seen the sky. Some had been experimented on so badly they could barely speak. This is what your leaders have been doing, Maya's voice continued. While you went about your daily lives, human beings were suffering in cages. While you celebrated your civilization's achievements, human children were being tortured in laboratories. The rescued humans were quickly transported to medical ships, but not before. Their images were included in the broadcast. The galaxy saw the faces of beings who had spent their entire lives as prisoners, born in captivity because their ancestors had been kidnapped during the genocide. The alien fleet around Earth began to break apart as the truth spread. Some ships surrendered immediately, their crews horrified by what they learned. Others tried to fight to the end, but human technology was simply too advanced. Admiral Walker watched as the last major alien battleship exploded in Earth's upper atmosphere. The debris would burn up harmlessly, adding to the meteor showers that still occasionally lit up the night sky. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," reported his communications officer. The screen showed a group of aliens standing in what had once been New York City. Walker recognized them as representatives of the species that had maintained Earth as a memorial. They had kept the monuments clean and the history accurate, even when their own governments had demanded they participate in the cover-up. "Admiral Walker," said their leader, a elderly Zephyrian named Kethmore, "we surrender ourselves to human justice. We have tried to preserve your world as best we could, but we know we cannot make up for what our people did." Walker felt a moment of respect for the old alien. It took courage to stand up for what was right when everyone around you was doing wrong. "Your actions have been noted," he replied. "You will be treated fairly." The final battle for Earth lasted only 6 hours. When it was over, the planet was free for the first time in 3 millennia. Human ships began landing at the old spaceports, bringing the first humans home since the Exodus began. President Johnson stood in the ruins of the United Nations building, where humanity's leaders had once tried to negotiate peace with the aliens, who were secretly planning their extinction. The building had been preserved exactly as it was on the day the humans were forced to flee. "Activate the isolation field," she ordered. Dr. Stone's device came online, surrounding the Sol system with an invisible barrier that nothing could cross. The alien ships still in the system found themselves trapped, unable to escape or call for help. "You wanted to eliminate humanity from the galaxy," Maya announced to the captured aliens. "Now you can experience what we experienced. You are cut off from the rest of your people. You will live here under human supervision, just as you forced us to live in exile." But Maya had one more surprise for the galaxy. As the isolation field stabilized, she broadcast one final message to every world in known space. "This war is over," she said. "Human civilization will be rebuilt. The prisoners will be freed and given medical treatment. The dead will be properly buried and remembered, but we will not repeat the mistakes that were made against us." The screen showed images of alien prisoners being treated with dignity and respect, given food and medical care despite their crimes. It showed human doctors working to heal both human and alien wounded. "We could destroy your worlds," Maya continued. "We could hunt down every being responsible for the genocide. We could make you suffer as you made us suffer, but we choose a different path." The final image showed human and alien children playing together in a medical facility, alien doctors working alongside human doctors to treat rescued prisoners. "The galaxy has a choice," Maya concluded. "You can learn from this tragedy and build a better future, or you can repeat the mistakes of the past. Choose wisely." The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Humanity had achieved total victory, but had chosen mercy over vengeance. They had the power to destroy their enemies, but had decided to heal instead. Over the following months, the truth about the genocide spread to every world. Species that had participated found themselves facing protests from their own people. Governments fell as citizens learned what had been done in their names. A new galactic government was formed, with strict laws against genocide and protections for developing species. Earth became the capital, with humans serving as reluctant guardians of galactic peace. The Sol system remained isolated, home to both the restored human civilization and the alien prisoners who had been trapped there. Over time, many of the younger aliens began to work alongside humans, helping to rebuild what their ancestors had destroyed. Captain Jake Morrison, now an old man, stood in Central Park where he had played as a child before the Exodus. The trees were exactly as they had been 3,000 years ago. carefully maintained by the alien caretakers. He watched human children playing with alien children, all of them too young to remember the old hatreds. Maybe that was the real victory, he thought, not the military triumph, but the possibility that future generations might do better. Admiral Sullivan, now retired, joined him on the bench. She looked tired, but satisfied. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked. Jake watched a human girl help an alien boy who had fallen down. The boy's parents had probably been part of the genocide, but the children didn't care about ancient history. "We got justice," he said finally. "Not vengeance, but justice." The truth came out. The prisoners were freed. The dead were remembered. And maybe, just maybe, it won't happen again. A news report on a nearby screen caught their attention. It showed the trial of the alien leaders responsible for the genocide. They would spend the rest of their lives in prison, but they would be treated humanely. "Some people think we were too soft," Sullivan said. Jake nodded. "Some people always will. But we didn't fight to become like them. We fought to become better than them." As the sun set over New York, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Jake felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in decades. The long exile was over. The dead had been avenged. The survivors were free. Humanity had returned home, not as conquerors, but as teachers. They had shown the galaxy that even after suffering the worst possible injustice, it was possible to choose hope over hatred. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in 3,000 years, it was a future humans would help, right? And maybe that was justice enough. In the memorial gardens, where the names of 20 billion dead humans were carved in stone, new flowers bloomed every spring. They were tended by alien and human hands, working together, a symbol of the possibility of redemption, even after the darkest crimes. The galaxy had learned that some sins could be forgiven, but never forgotten. And in remembering, perhaps they could build something better than what had come before. Justice had been served, not through destruction, but through truth. And truth, as humanity had always known, was the most powerful weapon of all.